We're stuck in Vermont.
And I love the world of magic, and I think that we all need a little magic in the world right now.
Welcome to Stuck in Vermont, brought to you by 7 Days and sponsored by New England Federal Credit Union. My name is Ava Solberger. We are here in Essex Junction at the studio of Susi Ryan. And this is the Felted Gnome Knows. What does he know?
I make mystical, magical creatures and hats out of local wool through the process of felting. I tend to like to make little animals, big animals, woodland creatures, and I like magical gnomes. And he's made with the process of needle felting. There are gnomes everywhere, but you have to be a very keen observer to be able to find them. They have their own little personalities, and I do it because it's magical. And things come out of the wool that you are surprised that you didn't even realize that it was going to bring this little being to life, or this crazy hat, or this beautiful scarf. The wool really sometimes has a mind of its own. That's my favorite hat this year. And I use wet felting to make crazy magical hats. Every hat has a person out there waiting for them, and they have to be willing to let their freak flag fly.
Yeah, life is better in fun hats.
Yeah. You can take the wool and you can fold it, and then with these barbed needles, poke, 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 poke. So I have a little ear here. I'm not sewing it, I'm actually felting it on to the sculpture. He has an ear now. It takes hours, sometimes days, to make a sculpture. My big gnomes take several days. These guys are an hour and a half to 2 hours. How I started needle felting was my husband, he comes from a really big family, and I had to come up with Christmas presents for 18 people. So first I was knitting, and then we saw a felting kit. I was like, oh, I could do so much with this. And I realized that I had friends who had sheep. These are locks from a Lincoln sheep, actually Joy Thompson out in Essex Center, her award-winning sheep. These are just wool that was not carded. A little bit of locks into this hat. And this actually has some silk in it too. Now this was a piece of lace, and I layered the wool over it. So I buy a fleece really pretty much off the sheep. I think it's really important to try and source locally a lot of the wool. I'm really excited about the idea that Vermont has a very diverse group of shepherds. That means that it's truly a Vermont product. I have gotten enough wool these days that I don't have to acquire any more. At least that's what my daughter is hoping, that I don't acquire any more of it. And my husband says that I'm like Pac-Man. I take over the house. This actually used to be the living room. There is the wet felting method, which is ancient. They've found mummies in the ice that have had felt boots and clothing on, but you definitely want to get it damp. With the wet felting, you layer the wool. You actually have at least 3 different layers, and they have to all be going in different directions. So, and then you start to roll. I'll do 100 rolls this way. 1, 2, 3, like 100 one way, 100 another way. It does take about 3 days for me to shape a hat. Wool will shrink anywhere from 30 to 50%. Sometimes you actually have to let things rest. There are times where I think that there's no way that this is going to shrink anymore. It's almost like the felt is saying to you, cut it out, leave me alone. And then the following day, you pick up the process again, and the wool will shrink a little bit more. So it's really interesting. It has a temperament, wool does, yeah. The art world doesn't necessarily recognize fiber art as art. The fiber artists really do feel very strongly that every single creation that we make is a piece of art.
You can meet Susi and buy some of her felted creatures this weekend at Craft Vermont at the DoubleTree in South Burlington. And we will get stuck in Vermont with you again real soon. Thank you for letting us visit today, Susi. We had a great time.
You're very welcome. Very welcome. Where are your nuts?
They're in the woods. They're buried. Do you want to come with me? We can go find them.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, let's get some of our friends, like the rabbit
Okay.
and the mouse.
Okay.
And who else
about
is
an
here?
elf?
Oh, that's an elf. Are you a house elf? Do you live in a house?
No, I'm a Christmas elf.
I'm an owl. I live in a tree. I have talons. Watch out. I've got talons. Oh no! Yeah, you better be careful because you look so good and tasty.